I, 27F, don't know how to trust my husband, 28 meters, after he secretly downloaded Tinder. I, 27F, found out my husband, 29M, downloaded Tinder and was talking to girls. We've been married for 6 months and together for 8 years. My friend sent me snaps of my husband's Tinder bio, and I confronted him at first. He lied, then admitted it. We fought till he let me read the messages. None of these conversations were long, handful of messages, some initiated by him and some by girls. The ones he initiated were sexual. He says he never would have acted on it. He says he did it cause he wasn't getting attention from me, such as flirting. We talked for hours, and lots came up for us to work on. But how do I move past this and trust him? This seems so small to end our marriage, but I can't stop thinking about it. TLDR. My husband downloaded Tinder, lied about it, and I don't know how to move on from this. How does someone trust their partner again after this?
This isn't small. This guy was actively trying to cheat on you, and upon discovery, didn't even have the decency to admit he was in the wrong but tried to pin it on you instead. It's actually more of a slap in the face that he blamed his behavior on you for not giving him enough attention. That's actually more concerning to me. If this guy really feels like he couldn't help himself upon feeling starved of your affection, then walk away, in fact run. If he was mortified at being caught out and mumbled this as some sort of instant cover-up, but just since admitted responsibility, then perhaps couples therapy can be of some use. However, a person who is only capable of fidelity, so long as they are getting your full attention, is actually not a person who is capable of fidelity. Read that again. It's a common and nasty trait of disloyal people to always try to pin the blame on someone else, or on circumstances, etc. The truth is that loyal people don't cheat no matter what. They break up first. Loyal people wouldn't debase themselves with all the sneakiness. If a relationship isn't working, loyal folks just try to address the issues or they end the relationship.
My boyfriend did this 2 years ago and swore he'd stop last year. I found messages to other women he sent literally when both me and our child were in the hospital after almost dying. IRRREEALLLYYY wish I had bailed the first time. You're 27, you have so much time to start over.
This is not small. This was a massive breach of trust. And there is no magic spell, but trust has to begin with accountability. If he is still saying shit like, I did it cause you weren't paying attention to me, instead of, I handled my unhappiness wrongly and I choose to betray you, then you're probably not going to be able to rebuild. He needs to be able to explain why and how he'll choose to be better the next time he's unhappy. Him being accountable doesn't mean you're flawless or there are no problems, but it's him admitting that nothing you ever did or didn't do meant he was justified in betraying you. He was 100% in the wrong to do what he did.
You shouldn't trust him.
You should ask him what he proposes to do to earn your trust again, not us.
My BF of over a year got drunk one night and downloaded 2 dating apps. BTWI was 37 weeks pregnant. I had a feeling something was off, so I looked through his phone while he was asleep and seen messages in his email from the sites. I confronted him and he said those were spam emails because at one point he did have the apps. At first I was like okay, but then later on I looked through again, but this time I reset his passwords to the sites and got in, found a bunch of messages he sent to multiple women. One in particular though, he asked what she was looking for and she said, dick. And he asked where she was located and then said he can definitely be of assistance. She asked when and he said, now? Then they talked about what they're into and he said CNC, that he would walk in, throw her around a little and take what's his, use his mouth. And told her how big it was at the end of the convo, though she said, you know I'm trans, right? And he said, I did not. IDK if that's why he didn't go, or if he was just sexting, but I confronted him and he cried and said he was sorry and that he didn't really remember much of it and doesn't think he was actually gonna do it. He said he doesn't know why he did it, that he thinks he's been in a dark place and scared to be a father. I left for a few days and stayed with his mom to get space and think. He didn't know I was there. He was devastated. He sent me roses at work with love notes. He cleaned up one of the rooms so we could set up the nursery for baby. He took me on trips 2 weekends. He's being more attentive and romantic. He's being more caring. I eventually forgave him. I am having a baby with him. But I still think about what he did and it makes me sick. We'll be having a great time and then out of nowhere I just remember, like I read the messages so many times I memorize them. I feel like I trust him to an extent but I can't fully trust him and it really messed with my self-esteem. Sorry for venting but it seems we are going through the same thing.
The ones he initiated were sexual. He says he never would have acted on it. Please refer to what he did below. At first, he lied, then admitted it. Are you really going to believe that? Next time he would act on it then lie. Then maybe admit to it, offer half-truths after a fight. We talked for hours, and lots came up for us to work on, but how do I move past this and trust him? You are only 6 months into marriage and he's already desperately seeking outside validation. If that was what he was only looking for, it is hard work to cheat. It takes planning and steps, withholding information, lying, doing things in secret. He already started taking those steps and he's only sorry because he was called out for it. He knew what he was doing and went along with it anyway. Given your ages, there is no reason for him to not be able to open his mouth and tell you he wants your attention. Sure, marriages aren't perfect and there are always things to work on, like communication, but something like this isn't small like you think it is. It is actually a big lie, that could have turned into something more had he not been found out at this time. Currently, it's the beginning of a betrayal against the vows you made to each other. It seems he took that so lightly, and it was just words to him 6 months ago. There are other ways to bring up issues in a relationship, but when someone steps out or looks the other way, then there is danger. Are you sure he hasn't done anything like this in the past? We fought till he let me read the messages. The fact that he couldn't own up to his actions and tried to protect his indiscretion without a fight is terrible. If you're wrong, admit it. Don't try to justify something if you know it was wrong. He obviously didn't think what he did was wrong and blamed you for stepping out, then argued to protect his reasoning. Quoting again, the ones he initiated were sexual. He says he never would have acted on it. It takes a lot to forget about your partner and pursue another person. Also, he did act on it already by messaging sexual things to people other than you, and he didn't feel guilty about it. Instead, he fought with you. If he is feeling guilty now, it's not because he hurt you or lost your trust. It's because you caught him and he had to deal with the confrontation. Doing something like this because your needs are unmet is not a free pass. I hope you don't allow it to be, only to be taken advantage of later down the line when he realizes he can push your boundaries without consequence. Then later on, when you realize and try to end things, he will probably say he doesn't want to leave and that he loves you. Isn't it nice to have a placeholder who will take you back when you venture off into the bed of another? If you choose to move forward with him, he's going to need to be transparent at all times. This is something hard to move on from. I haven't experienced it myself, but it sucks that I am the onlooker, comforter of many who HSVE been in situations much like this. Tight to put your boundaries up, make them known, and if he can't follow through with them then it's time to call off a one-sided marriage. All the best, Op.
Sis, you've been married for less than a year. He downloaded Tinder to get sexual with other women, and then blamed you. You are 27 damn years old. Why are you settling like this? This is not small, and he is not interested in being your partner.
Get an annulment. You definitely get his attention with that.
Go to a family planning clinic and ask for an STD check.
My ex-husband did this 6 months into our marriage. Some men think as soon as you're legally binded to them, they can go back to acting single with the added benefit of a wife at home to look after them. I forgave him because my parents spent $12,000 on our wedding and I didn't want to believe my marriage was over after 6 months. I never trusted him after that, and you'll never trust your husband again either. Your relationship has changed forever. He was cheating on me for the whole 5 years I suffered in a marriage to a man I didn't trust and made me feel horrible about myself. I didn't have the benefit of advice from someone who'd been through this. You're in for a lot of suffering if you stay. That's a promise. He isn't going to stop. He's going to hide it better.
I don't think you do trust him after that he lied to you, and then blamed you?
This is not small. Things between you two are bad. Contemptuous. If you want this marriage to continue and both of you need to get into couples counseling ASAP. There's a lot here, a lot. And even then it might be too late.
Yeah, this doesn't look good for him. Learning to trust him again can often be a very long process, and it will require a great deal of effort on his part. Access to everything he owns, passwords, etc. Sexting is cheating, whether he'd act on it or not. And if he wasn't getting attention from you, he talks to you and discusses it with you. He doesn't chat with other women. His excuse is a non-starter. Quite frankly.
He says he did it cause he wasn't getting attention from me, such as flirting. Even if that were completely true, the only responsible response is to say, "Hey sweetie, would you mind flirting with me more? I'm feeling a bit down because I feel distant from you." He didn't. Instead of communicating his feelings, he chose to break his marriage and shred his vows.
So it's your fault he did this and it is your responsibility to learn to trust him again? Sounds reasonable.
You will never trust him fully again. You're only 6 months into this lifelong commitment, and he's already showing he will cheat on you, premeditated and everything.
The only thing that's going to change here is that he's going to get better at hiding it. He showed you who he is. Believe him. Run, this is not a small thing, especially since he is taking zero accountability and blaming his cheating on you.
It's not very small, it's a big deal. It's a sign of thing to come for you, because he's going to repeat this, perhaps smarter next time, plus you will not be able to stop thinking about it. Why? Since he won't work on it. You need to consider whether or not it's worth continuing. Your marriage, do you have children together? If not, I'd probably try to bail as soon as you can, or have one foot out. You're young, you can do better than this. The issue is this. He DL'd because he intended to cheat on you, so that alone is cheating. Then it's not that he went to you and had a talk about how he felt neglected, due to lack of flirting between the two of you. Although I can't blame you for not feeling to flirt with him after this, since he cheated and you're hurt, so don't force yourself, but he ended up cheating on you instead. There's no regret too. Instead, he blames you for him cheating. Those are why he will repeat this, and you're right that you can't trust him anymore.
I am sorry, but one thing I learned while doing online dating is that the majority of the men who sent me messages were either married or in committed relationships. He is lying if he said he wouldn't have acted on them. He is married, there is no reason to even download the app.
You don't. You leave. You can confront him numerous times. He'll continue to sneak.
This isn't small. He cheated on you and betrayed you. He broke your trust and your heart in this. He isn't even taking personal responsibility for his actions. He's just feeding you weak BS excuses. He may have started with just sex talk, but if he feels neglected again, he's most likely going to go next level. I wouldn't believe for a second that he wouldn't have acted upon it if the opportunity had presented itself. This isn't any way to live your life. Always wondering what he is up to. If you want to salvage this, it's going to take time and major effort on his part. He needs to start by actually taking responsibility for his behavior. He also needs to work hard at rebuilding trust with you and work at helping you feel secure in your marriage again. You're most likely going to struggle with this until these things occur. His actions speak louder than words here. You need to have a serious discussion regarding boundaries if it hasn't already happened. If part of that means having an open phone policy so you are comfortable, then set that expectation.
I don't think it's small. I think you should leave ASAP. Try not to trip over the red flags on your way out.
You have to make your own decision on how to move forward, but make one thing clear: he would have acted on it. He did the classic cheater tactic of trickle truth. First they deny. Then they say they were just bored and swiping. Then they say it was harmless and it's your fault because you were lacking in some way. Then they admit to sending messages. They weren't sexual though. Then you find the messages and they're sexual, but they swear it wasn't going to be acted on each step of the way. They're showing you they respect you so little that they will lie to the furthest extent possible to escape consequences for their actions.
If he had no intention of acting on anything sexual, he wouldn't have been having sexual interactions with other women online, let alone have an account on Tinder. He has every thought of cheating and getting some side action. He might not cheat now, but he knows you caught him, and will get more sneaky about it, and it's not a matter of if he cheats, but when. I don't typically suggest this, but I'd leave while you're still early in your marriage before a kid, planned or unexpected, comes into the picture and you are possibly stuck in a relationship where you are not valued or treasured. You are still very young, and you have many opportunities to find a man worth being married to. But your husband is not that man.
How do you trust him after that? You don't. Tinder is viewed by most as the hookup app, and out of all the dating apps and sites he could have gone to, he chose that one. He clearly intended to cheat and in fact may have. Then he tries to blame you for his actions. If you let this go, he will think that he can get away with it, and eventually will try again.
He's checked out. This will eventually end in infidelity down the road if you don't do something now. Trust your gut.
You are 27. Run. Divorce. He will never change. Get therapy after you make the decision to leave him. You need to learn what red flags you missed in the relationship.
From a guy. I wouldn't trust him at all. It's super hard to admit that you may have to end or have a lot of talking to with him, but he really broke your trust and your feelings. That is not okay, especially if it's to cheat and send sexual messages to other girls when you guys are in a monogamous relationship is extremely shitty. Yeah, there might be times you want more attention, etc., but if you're willing to cheat, you might as well just break up and he can do whatever he wants, because this is a clear sign of disrespect.
He got caught. Damn Skippy, he would act on this.
This seems so small to end our marriage. Are you for real?